everyone, Dr. Glassmeyer here. Welcome. We are in the midst of a series of videos exploring the common and predictable tactics that are used in emotionally abusive relationships to control and to manipulate. So the last couple of weeks we've talked about things like withholding and blocking, really stopping communication, not letting you in, not sharing feelings. Last week we talked about discounting, where what you value is demeaned, where what you believe is put down. Your very worth as a person can be devalued. So really painful stuff. Today we are going to talk about a sneaky little game of pretend that happens at your expense. Remember, narcissistic men, emotionally abusive men, want to do anything they can do to avoid real conversations and real emotions. So oftentimes these guys will deny that something that happened actually happened, or something that was said between the two of you. They'll deny that it was ever even said. So really manipulating your reality. A woman a couple weeks ago told me about a time where she had decided that she was going to work really hard to see if she could preserve this marriage, this relationship. So she decided that when one of their explosive arguments happened, that she wasn't going to engage. That once things got to that place where they were no longer productive, she was simply going to say stop. And if he continued, she would leave the house. As this went on, each time she would leave the house for longer periods. The interesting thing is that she said invariably when she came back and she'd walk into the house, here was her husband pretending as though nothing happened. And sure, he'd greet her, be nice, where have you been, honey? I missed you, honey. But if she tried to actually talk about what happened, he would say, you know, I think there is something really wrong with you. I don't know why you're making up these stories. That didn't even happen. What are you talking about? So you talk about crazy making, gaslighting, there you go. Pretending as though promises that were made were not made. Another woman told me about confronting her husband on an alcohol issue and saying, look, it's either the alcohol or me. I can't continue this. And so promises were made, commitments were made. And not only were they not kept, but when she said, hey, you know, you promised you wouldn't drink, we talked about this. He said, I never made that promise to you. I don't know what you're talking about. One woman even told me about a pretty long separation where she got so far as to move out of the house, didn't file papers or anything, again, really wanting to work on the relationship, see if she could make it better. So over a very long period of time, almost approaching a year, this couple continued to go to therapy. Finally, as it was approaching the end of the year, time to decide if she was going to renew her lease or not, she said, hey, you know, we haven't talked about these things in a while. Can we kind of revisit the commitments that we made to one another so that we can make sure that we've come to some sort of resolution and agreement on these things? And he said, yeah, we can do that, but I don't even know why you moved out. We don't have any problems. So a game of pretend, despite a year-long separation, despite multiple therapy appointments, just simply pretending. And let me tell you, if you decide to engage in this game of pretend, he will twist and turn, and no matter what, he will not agree that he is lying to you. Sure, he remembers. Of course he remembers. But if he pretends to you that he doesn't remember, then you can't hold him responsible for what he said or what he did. So the one guy where the woman would leave for longer and longer periods of time, one time when she came home and said, hey, this has been happening every time I leave. I come home, I want to talk about these things, see if we can, fix something. Let's move forward with the relationship. And he said, you know the problem with you? I'm trying to make this better, and you're just trying to drum up ancient history. So the thing that happened before, the night before, ladies, was now ancient history. The thing that happened this morning, guess what? It too is ancient history. Because if he can just pretend, if he can be just Mr. Nice Guy in the moment, guess what? He has pulled you right back into that cycle that has held you hostage for how long? For some women, it's many, many, many years. Other women, it's many months. It doesn't matter how long. What matters is the cycle and how cunning he is at pulling you back in. If you're a person who is trying to work on a relationship, and suddenly the guy that was screaming and yelling and demeaning you and not letting you talk the night before is suddenly showing up and just being nice, wanting to hug you, wanting to tell you how much he loves you, it's very easy to go along with this little game of pretend, or agreeing not to bring up ancient history, because this is the part of the relationship that you're hoping to get back to. Unfortunately, with a narcissist, with an emotionally abusive guy, you will never get back to the place that brought you into this relationship to begin with. So, if you are still in what you believe to be a toxic relationship, start paying attention to this little game of pretend. You know what you experienced. You know what you heard, and don't let him tell you otherwise. If you have left a toxic relationship, pay attention to his attempts to come back. The minute you have really left, maybe you've implemented no contact. You've done everything you can not to have any conversations, any contact, not to see him. Guess what? Right about the time you're moving on with your life, he's going to show up. And this is just another little sneaky game of pretend. So keep your eyes open, rely on your support system, reach out for help. Many, many, many women, including myself, have been through this. We can help you to know that what he's telling you true is true, and you know is not true. Stand firm. Stand in your truth.